My name is Leah and I'm going to be presenting on Colles fractures today. Colles fractures were originally described by John Abraham Colles in 1814. Specifically, he termed it as a distal radius fracture, which was 2.5 centimeters proximal to the articular surface of the radius and the carpal bones. But today it's just used more as a general term for a distal radius fracture. Mechanism of injury is generally a fouche. Elderly population is more at risk, mostly because they're just more at risk of falling. And women are more at risk as well, just because due to the levels of osteoporosis in the elderly population. Signs and symptoms, the biggest sign they're going to have is a dinner fork deformity, and the picture to the right is showing that. I also brought in a fork so that I could explain it to you. So if an athlete comes to you and they have a Colles fracture, they're likely going to have like this bump, like this rise, like a fork does. So that's why they call it a dinner fork deformity. They're also going to have severe pain, swelling, and they're probably going to have some neurological issues. That's a common complication. There are multiple classification systems. The most common that I saw in the literature was the Frickman classification system, but the basic idea of all the classification systems is that the more severe or displaced the fracture is, then the higher number that they get in the classification system. There are non-surgical treatments that are mostly done for non-displaced fractures. There are 3 types of immobilizations. All the pictures are at the bottom of your page: circumferential casting, modified sugar tongue casting, and a volar dorsal splint. They're in a study that did all 3 of these types of immobilization. They found no significant difference in functional outcomes after they were removed from the immobilization. And the initial rehab for all of them included ice, passive range of motion as soon as they were taken out of the cast or the splint, and paraffin bath as soon as the swelling and inflammation had decreased. And then as far as surgical treatment, surgery is recommended for unstable or non-reducible Colles fractures. Generally, people will do external fixation, has been the most common method, but a study that I looked into has been doing internal fixation as well. And they specifically used a TriMed fragment-specific system in this study, which used radial pin plates, pins, and pins, and that's another possibility. Again, after 5 years post-op, there were no significant difference in function between the 2 types of surgical procedures, so it's probably just based on surgical preference. As far as complications, 20 to 30% of Colles fractures result in some type of complication along with the fracture. Most common complications include impairment of the median nerve due to the compression from the fracture. Other complications can include a rupture of the extensor pollicis longus tendon, compartment syndrome, some vascular damage, carpal tunnel syndrome, and arthritis as well. Any questions?